Wait, can I? Yeah, I can slide it that way. That way I'm more in shot. Is it working? I have no idea. Oh, yeah. Something's happening. Yay! I think we're... Yep, okay, it's working. And I can hear myself. I do not want to do that. Okay, so... I've completely forgotten how to start these, because I haven't done one in ages. But anyway, we're going to be overclocking with liquid nitrogen, and you're not currently able to see that. So that, there, so that's ready. There's not a whole lot of it, and the competition has multiple stages, so I'm going to be a little bit... I'm not sure. I don't really want to burn a ton of LN2 today, because there's also stage 2 and 3. I still don't have my GT 730 card for those two stages, so that's a bit of an issue. But you know what? Enough of me. Let's go take a look at the setup, and we'll talk about that as we go through it. So yeah, that there is the horrible mess that I will be working on today. Actually, this is pretty tidy. I mean, not the desk. I mean the setup. So, as usual, there's the 550 watt Cooler Master power supply powering the OC panel, which has the temperature probe and the fan here. Yeah, I could run more fans. I can't be bothered. I tested it like this. It ran great. The motherboard is the... Give me a second. Is this thing. Hop. So that's the Z270N Wi-Fi from Gigabyte. Not really designed for LN2 overclocking. Actually, not at all. You'll see as we do the session. You'll see what I mean by that. Yeah, I have voltage sense hooked up. You can see that line right there. So that goes to the multimeter over here. And right now that's reading 0 because the system is powered off. This is the ground line. I'm just pulling it off of the... over there, off of the motherboard standoff. It might look like it's completely insulated, it's not. I haven't gone all the way to the edges with the plasti dip. And yeah, the board is completely dipped. On the underside of the board, I've added some capacitors, but you can't see them, and I don't want to tear this down just to show you the capacitors over there. The GPU, as of right now, is the still not dead yet GT710. I think I might actually kill it once the 730 turns up, because the 730 will kind of replace it, I think. So yeah, that's the setup. Oh, and the power supply is a Antec 1200 watt power supply. So, I'm gonna go fill up a thermos and let's get this garbage fired up. Actually, I should probably lift you up. There, and you can, actually, you can sort of see the temperature. You can't really see, let's see. There. And that didn't do anything for your ability to see it. I give up. Actually, I might be able to dump this here. Oh, that's disconnected. Oh, well. So, yeah. So, for today, it's just an i3-7350K under there. The RAM, which I forgot to mention, that's the Team Group T-Force Extreme. 3733, 18, 20, 39 timings. That's the stock XMP. I'll probably be running the RAM above 4 gigahertz just because that's easier to do than trying to run good timings on this motherboard anyway. Where did the thermoses go? Oh, right there. So, yeah. And the benchmark for today is GPU Pi 1 billion for CPU, which is really like... So GPU Pi is a re-implementation, is a Super Pi implementation using OpenCL, and it's meant to be run on GPUs. The thing about it is, since it's OpenCL, it also runs on CPUs, except way slower. So while a GPU, like say an R9 290X, takes 30 seconds-ish, or even less than that, to do 1 billion digits of pi using GPU Pi, a CPU, especially like the i3 here, with 2 cores and only 4 threads total, takes about 7 minutes, even at 6.6 gigahertz, which my CPU right here won't do because in testing this thing was barely pushing 6. Part of that is because of the motherboard. Part of that is just the chip isn't really that great. So, yeah. That's gonna be really, this is gonna be a disaster. So, anyway, let's get this thing started and start pulling it down. And I forgot to re-enable that. So, yeah. I'll just start this. And I already have like profiles saved and where on, is that flash stick in there? Okay, yeah, it is. So I already have profiles from an earlier LN2 session where I was just testing that everything will actually work today, which it will, so let's get started. The cold bug on this thing is around minus 130 degrees. And actually you can see getting a lot more vapor than usual because there's actually water still down in the LN2 pot from the earlier sessions. Let's get this started. Yeah, but the cold bug on this is around minus 130 and cold boot bug is like 10 degrees above that. So this is not a fun platform, like this is not a fun way to do Kaby Lake because Kaby Lake on the right motherboard with the right settings is cold bug free, cold boot bug free. Well, cold boot bugs sort of, you can get rid of them, but not always. You can get them very, very low, like you can get them down to minus 8, 180 or minus 175. This right here has a cold bug at around minus 130. And the reason for that is this motherboard, if we go into the advanced voltage settings, and then we just go, so actually I'm going to load up a profile for that. You only have these settings, whereas if there's a guide for overclocking Gigabyte Z270 on LN2, and that guide is designed for the Gigabyte Z270 SoC motherboard, which has a lot more settings in here. And also, I'm limited on the voltage, like V-Core, for example, only goes to 1.8. Can't go beyond that. So that's a bit of a problem, because Kaby Lake typically maxes out around 1.95. Admittedly, it also dies at around 1.95, so it's not like you actually want to run at 1.95 just because you can. So yeah, and I just want to check, does this not have temperature in the, oh right, they do it this way. So temperature on the CPU and the thermometer, yeah, they're in line. So that's good. I think I'll just load profiles. So I have a profile saved on a USB stick here because this motherboard, the other issue I have with this thing is it keeps forgetting profiles. I don't know why. Right now they're there, but when I was testing earlier, they just kept disappearing. So actually, you can save profiles to a USB stick, so that's what I did here. We're just going to load up this one, which doesn't work. I'll patch it up and we can go into the OS, and we'll start at like 5.5 gigahertz, just because that's, I did not want to change that. So the first issue with this profile is that it actually doesn't, this motherboard for whatever reason can't run 101 VCLK. And that, I'm not sure about that. We'll try to solve that because that's really, it's a real problem with this CPU, because that really means I'm stuck just going up by 100 megahertz increments, whereas I could maybe pick up another 50 or 25 megahertz if I could get the BCLK working. I think it might be because I'm trying to push such high memory clock, but we'll test that later. CPU core clock, I'll drop that down to 55. And then in here you can see 5.5 gigahertz CPU core clock, 5 gigahertz uncore. All of the power settings are just maxed out. It maxes out at 4090. So that's what that is. Then down at the very bottom, I have all of the C states and all of the power savings. Those are all disabled as well. Don't really want those messing around with the performance of the CPU while we're running. And yeah, so that's the CPU settings. The memory settings are just XMP. The voltage settings this loads up is the following. So VCC substained actually helps with overclocking on the CPU. That 1.73 is a bit high. How low are we? We're at -11. I want to drop this to around -40. Then I'm gonna glaze the LN2 pot, which basically is intentionally building up an ice layer inside the LN2 pot. And then we'll go all the way down as to the cold bug and start benchmarking at that. So yeah, I'll just set that to 0. 1.45, that's a good starting point for LN2, but we're not at cold enough temperatures yet. The vccio, and this is another interesting thing about this board, vccio goes to 1.4, but for some ungodly reason, System Agent doesn't. It only goes to 1.3. So that's another issue I have with the board, is I can't actually, like, normally you need more vccsa than vccio, but this board, for whatever reason, has the voltage limit switched around. It also, so one of the key voltages this lacks is VCC-PLL. VCC-PLL is a voltage that is universally available on like all of the good Z270 LN2 overclocking motherboards and a lot of the Z170 LN2 overclocking motherboards. This one doesn't have it. It's a mini ITX, you know, like this is the cheapest mini ITX Z270 board I think you can get. So I'm not particularly surprised that it doesn't have the setting, but it causes real issues because VCC-PLL is the voltage you need to be able to adjust in order to get rid of most of the cold bug and the cold boot bug. So basically I'm stuck at -130 with this setup here. This should already work. What's the RAM set to? That's a bit high for the settings it's running, but that doesn't really matter. I'll just drop that down. 75. I think this should boot right off of the, yeah. Also the LLC, I have it set to turbo. You'll actually see that on the multimeter. Under load, this will basically match the core voltage we set here. So right now it's 1.6, so under load I'm expecting to see like 1.595 on the multimeter here, just from previous testing. So yeah, I think let's just see if this boots at this point. We are at -18 because I'm not pouring properly, but whatever. This will still boot. And I think I'll do a first run of GPU Pi 1 billion at 5.5, and then we'll sort of work it up from there. I expect to stop at like 5.9 gigahertz just because this motherboard and this CPU, well, mostly this motherboard. If I had a different motherboard with more V-core and no cold bug, I could probably go up to 6.2, maybe 6.3. And I actually considered volt modding this motherboard for more V-core. Unfortunately, this uses an Intersil ISL 95858, something like that, voltage controller. And that thing uses a really interesting voltage sense circuit. And in my experience, if the circuit like the more complicated feedback circuits don't take kindly to you just strapping a resistor in parallel with them, which was my idea. Most of the time it just doesn't work. Sometimes it causes all kinds of weird issues, so yeah, I really am stuck at the maximum voltage of 1.8. So yeah, right now we can see multimeter is reading 1.594, and we're just sitting idle. System hit -40. And that means I'm gonna hit it with the hairdryer to get the ice buildup inside. It helps that it was still wet from the last session. This is a lot quicker to do now than it normally is. Should dive the temperature right now. Hasn't speeded up yet. So the thing about glazing is, when you build up the ice layer properly, if you pour a lot of LN2, the pot runs down quicker. Like, the temperature drops faster if you do it right. And the hairdryer overheated. God, I love this thing. Cool off the hairdryer. There we go. Minus 50. Is the inside looking? Yeah, that looks decent. So at this point, oh, actually, yeah, I'll show you. There we go. Switch to the camera. So now the upper wall is all white, which is, you know, this happens quickly, but the lower structure down there, that's what I'm aiming to get, a nice white layer. At this point, I can see that it's not just straight bare metal, so it's better than nothing, but still not the... It's still not as fast as I had it last time I was working on this. But that was after a few minutes of actually benchmarking, so... Oh, yeah, now it's getting there. You can actually hear, like, a difference in how the LN2 boils if you glaze correctly. Yeah, and the temperature is now dropping, like, faster than a degree. I don't know what the update rate of this thermometer is, but it's dropping at multiple degrees per update, so... This is about as fast as it gets. So we should be at minus 100 pretty soon. Then we'll go a bit below that because the cold bug should be around minus 130. There we go. And let's get GPU Pi opened up. Just to see. Calculate 1 billion. And yeah. Also for GPU Pi, a interesting thing you have to do software-wise is you need to use the AMD OpenCL implementation for the CPU because that one's way faster than the Intel implementation. So, yeah. And I'm actually all out on this thermos here. So I'll just get this running and shall see. I want to get a baseline. Now this benchmark takes a while, so don't expect anything credible. Temperatures are holding kind of steady. Okay, yeah. No, this isn't that hot. This isn't as bad as Cinebench. Okay, first batch. I don't even know how many batches this has to calculate. That's great. Well, I'll go grab, I'll empty this thermos into it and I'll grab another fill up. There we go. Yeah, minus 90 now. That shouldn't drop below what I want. Well, it shouldn't drop below the cold bug, which is what I want to avoid. Go. Still at 90. This is really way easier to benchmark than other CPUs. I mean, it is only pulling a 0.6 of an amp at the wall, and I'm on UK 240 volt power, so yeah. Okay, 20 iterations. I missed that. I don't think I've run GPU Pi very much. Man, this benchmark is boring. Oh. Goes. Yeah, voltage is drooping by... You can see we're losing 10 millivolts, 11-ish millivolts on the core voltage, but that's really not that bad. And it still hasn't crashed, so... Actually, I'm going to move the thermometer so I can sit down and read questions at the same time and make the process of waiting, attempt to make the wait less boring here. But, let's go. That's minus 96. Actually, let's see. Can I get the kickstand out? Yeah, no. Nope, that's the mouse. There. Minus 93. I'm gonna try hover it at minus 100. Batch 7. Okay, so... What? Whoa, GPU Pi, is that boring? Yes. Yes, it is. Just sit here and wait for it to calculate. This is like... Super Pi 32 million is almost as bad. And actually, in the meantime, I'm going to go figure out what batch size and reduction size everybody else is running. Because the best way to get a top score is to copy the top score. That's usually a good starting point for this benchmark. In terms of settings, and we're at 97. Do it more. Go. 100. All is well. And actually, I'll just look up the i3-7350K ranking, not even the competition one. That should be a better idea. And copy off of that. GPU Pi. Yeah, the world record for this benchmark on the... No, the first place, yeah, for this benchmark on an i3 is 7 minutes. Oh, no. So, let's see, what settings is he running? 5 and 512. That's at 6.8 gigahertz. Oh my god, this is going to take a month. Okay, so anybody got questions? Because this is going to take a while. And I really don't have that much work to do because it's just an i3. It's not like working with... It's not power hungry enough for me to have to do a lot. Flavor of pie? I don't know. Somebody asked when is the Ryzen session. Soon. Unfortunately, it's going to be on the B350 Plus board, not the Tai Chi, because I want to do the... Well, basically, I want to run Ryzen for the ROG OC Showdown Team Edition, because for Stage 5, I'm only allowed to submit in Stage 4 and 5, and quite frankly, I have no idea what to do for Stage 4, since that's reference clock, and that's not something I've ever really seriously looked at benchmarking. And then Stage 5 is 3D Mark Time Spy. So ideally, you would want to run like a GTX 1080 with X99, but X99 motherboards are expensive, and GTX 1080s are too, so that's why I have the GTX 1070 Dual from Asus. And then this board. Whoops, knocked over the Tai Chi. This one. This thing. Ta-da! That's what I'll be running Ryzen on with LN2. That's gonna be a hell of an adventure. I think I'll do like an ambient session with it first, like just on water cooling. The motherboard already just disappointed me with the fact that the maximum core voltage is 1.4 volts. Which I get why that's a thing. It is a 4-phase VRM. But interestingly enough, that VRM on the board doesn't run that hot. Like, the VRM, during testing, my little AIO actually got overwhelmed first. Like, the 1700 was doing like 4 gigahertz, 1.4 volts, maxed out LLC, because that board has like the V droop across the power plane on that thing is insane. 1.52 volts on the VCore on the VRM is 1.4 volts by the time it gets to the back of the CPU socket. So, and my voltage reading dropped out. Not that that hugely matters right now. And the multimeter is being dumb again. Why does this... There we go, now it's being normal. 101. So yeah, that motherboard, I want to do some testing on like water cooling. Maybe see if adding capacitors can't get it to clock a little better. Might try to e-power it. The problem is it's an Asus board, so it has one of those Digi+ voltage controllers from Asus, which are rebranded. Well, sometimes they're actually completely custom parts, but a lot of the time they're just rebranded something, and that makes, you know, modding the VRM a lot harder. Also, unlike, like a lot of the more modern VRMs on CPUs are a lot less dumb than say on GPUs, where on GPUs you basically just make it look like everything is running fine, and the GPU is like, yeah, sure, I'll take that. And on CPUs, some like this board can't even properly do a feedback pin mod, because the feedback pin, there's 2 feedback pins, and I don't know, like, I'm assuming that there's an error correction system between the 2. So if you screw up one, like if you mess with the reading on one of them, it won't necessarily actually affect the entire VRM at all, which is annoying. So, yeah. Yeah, anybody can join the r/overclocking team and do the ROG OCS OC Showdown competition. The thing is, like, we're actually really well ranked, r/overclocking is. I mean, we are behind, like, right now we are. I don't know how it'll look once all of the LN2 users start posting submissions, but we're doing pretty well. I think we need a better XTU score, if off the top of my head. Is like for stage 1, we have an i5 in XTU, which is less than ideal. I think we need like a 4790K. Though I'm not entirely sure what CPUs we've already submitted. Oh, there's my calculation done. So let's see, how does this compare to the existing submissions on this competition? Yeah. I mean, this is slow. I don't expect this to be anything record-breaking, but let's see. Stage 1. So this is the actual, I'll drop the link for the competition in the chat. There. And current record is 7 minutes 56. 8 minutes 10 is second. That's at 6.4 gigahertz. I'm not catching that. Noliso is at 9, and he's at 5.7. Okay, so if I can take third place, I'll be happy. Even if I can only take third place for like the next 10 hours before everybody posts their submissions tomorrow, because there is 16 hours left in the competition, well, in this first stage, so people will be posting their actual best scores just as the timer is about to run out. Which is always, that's the other thing I really don't like about online competitions, is like, you never know if you're doing well enough because people post their actual best scores right as the timer is about to run out, so that nobody had, like, you know, it's sound strategy, because if you do that, nobody has any time to go and benchmark their system again and try catch up to you, but it's annoying. It is really annoying. So there's the memory. Yeah, so it's running 41, 33, 17, 17, 17, 28. I'm really pushing way too much voltage for those settings right now. And mainboard, and now we can save this. Skip GPU detection. I'll just save that. Result was successfully saved. Okay. So 954.95 7. Yeah, okay. I'll get the clocks up higher and then we'll start testing the different batch sizes and reduction sizes, because I don't really want to bother with that while it's taking this long to calculate anyway. This is really not using that much LN2, which is a good thing. Cinebench uses more LN2 than this, even on the i3. That's what I tested with originally. Okay, so we're at minus 113, 114. Drop it lower. Actually, you know what? Let's hit the cold bug. Oh, and I forgot to do the... Ah, well. Minus 29, minus 30, 130, 133, and it died. Yeah, so minus 133, it died. Damn it. And this is the best part, because we always get snow flying everywhere. Let's see if I can even reboot this. This board has an interesting issue. When you hit the cold boot bug, it starts really quickly boot looping. Yeah, it's doing that. We're at minus 125. Could it please come back at this point? Nope. Still boot looping. Yeah, so minus 120 cold bug. I mean cold boot, but I think it's back. Yeah, okay. It looks like it's back now. Bile swiped, though. So I'll probably just hover it at around minus 120, because there's like 10 degrees down, doesn't really make that big a difference, and this thing... Is it not booting yet? Doesn't seem to be. Obnoxious little... Oh, it's still boot looping. Damn. Hairdryer's too hot again. Oh, now it... Yeah, it's back. So, minus 150... Yeah, okay, so 15 degrees, minus 30... Minus 130, it dies. Minus 15, it comes back. That's less than ideal. But at this point, we can actually, like, max out the voltage and max everything out, because at this point, like, this motherboard doesn't go anywhere. There's not much fine-tuning to do. So, load profiles. We're gonna load this one. And advanced frequency. Put 100 in there. 58. We can put this to like 56. At this point, advanced voltage, CPU core 1.75. I mean, it doesn't matter. 1.8. It doesn't really, like, just max out the voltage, because this motherboard doesn't go far enough. There. So now it's back down at minus 110, and I'm gonna go get another fill up. Where did I put the thingy? The hell? Where'd it go? There it went. Okay, so how's the temperature? Okay, well, now that the voltage is up at where it maxes out, it does actually use a bit, like, it warms up a bit faster, but again, nothing unmanageable. Let's get GPU Pi open. Calculate. That was the best, I think. Let's check that. Yeah, okay, so that's the current settings for the current world record. I really hope this works. We are at 5 point... Yeah. So we're losing another... Yeah, so now it's losing 13 millivolts under load instead of just 11. So the multimeter's at 1.7876-ish. So, that's not great, but whatever. Now we wait. Any questions? I don't really have anything better to do than take them now. What do I think of the leaked i9 SKUs? I mean, I like big high core count CPUs, okay? That's just a fact. Like, I honestly, like, I've done X79, X99 more than pretty much any other, like, mainstream Intel platform. Actually, more than any other platform. I think also like 6 cores and 8 cores on AM3 Plus I've done a lot. And then Ryzen, I love high core count CPUs. So I'm excited for them. I'm just really worried about the prices. I'm really, really hoping that Intel gets sensible and like, I think the 12 core might end up being like $1,700 again. In which case, I mean, I somehow got my hands on a 6950X, so I can only hope that I get my hands on a 7920X, but yeah, it's, you know, it's an exciting platform. The 3D Mark records are all going to be broken again, and benchmarking 3D is going to be more expensive than ever. That's my outlook on it. I'm personally more excited for X399 from AMD, because we are going to be seeing, like, there's going to be 16 cores from AMD. And sure, they won't clock as high as Kaby Lake X and Skylake X, but I think, like, they could still be really competitive for, like, a benchmark like Time Spy. Because Time Spy works really well with Ryzen already, so just giving it more cores, I can't see that screwing up anything. Have you done any Ryzen extreme overclocking? I haven't done anything. I haven't run any liquid nitrogen on Ryzen yet. Mostly because the Taichi had all those BIOS issues, which I hear are now patched. I still need to test that. There will be probably a video about that tomorrow, about the 2.3 BIOS. And then, well, so basically the Taichi BIOS issues was why I wasn't doing LN2 on Ryzen, because I was, like, I don't want to, like, you know, it's one thing to have a motherboard like this where you don't have all the settings you need and it just sort of, it's just sort of useless. It's another thing where you have a motherboard which actively just screws you over every time you try to use one of the features. So that pretty much, you know, it was a case of I was waiting for ASRock to fix it. Now that they fixed it, it's a matter of me not running out whenever I next get my batch of LN2. So probably in June, I'll be running Ryzen on the Taichi, but I will be doing the B350 Plus much sooner than that for the ROG OCS. And that'll be interesting because Ryzen has some weird issues with the memory on liquid nitrogen. So, yeah. Yeah, but the Ryzens are supposed to have an insane TDP. I mean, that's gonna be... I honestly don't really have an opinion on that. I've never run anything like FX 9590 I've run on liquid nitrogen. Like, if it has no... The thing is, Ryzen has no cold bug, so I can't see it being that hard on liquid nitrogen. It's just gonna be like, it's gonna use more liquid nitrogen. It's not gonna be like you're gonna have to pour very accurately or manage some crazy cold bug or something. Like X99 is really difficult to benchmark, apparently. I still haven't put the X power on liquid nitrogen, and that's also like, I want to do that, but there's not enough LN2 and there's not enough time, ever, for anything, so, yeah. I have a 5960X. I've been running at 4 gigahertz, but with all the new Ryzen if you have a 5960X, is depending on how good... Maximum voltage for a 5960X is 1.35 volts. Maximum temperature is 85 degrees during stress testing. So just do whatever you have to achieve that. Really. You could probably push you can push 4.4 or 4.6 gigahertz really easily on a 5960X. You don't even need a ton of voltage for that. This benchmark is boring. Have you done any OC on Ryzen? Yes, I have actually done Ryzen overclocking. That's how I found out the Taichi's BIOS sucks, and how I found out the B350 Plus is really, really bad. It's not like I've just been sitting here and like just had the board sitting here. It's like there was a period of time when I was testing the team group memory, which I have right here. When I was testing that on the Apex, what I was doing, because I'd get really, really frustrated with trying to do 4 gigahertz or CL12 or some other ridiculous memory settings, like when I was doing the 4.5 gigahertz screenshot. I just get really frustrated because KB like memory overclocking is hard at the best of times. So I would do some, I would work on the Apex for a bit. I'd get annoyed. I'd switch to the Taichi. I'd get annoyed much faster this time around, go back to the Apex and be like, oh, this is not that bad. But yeah, so I was switching back and forth between the boards. My Ryzen 7 can actually do 4 gigahertz really, really easy. My 1700, it really doesn't have a problem doing 4 gigahertz. 3200 megahertz memory, it does very, very easy as well. Actually, I have a post about the testing I did on the Asus board on Imgur. There's like an image album. I'll put that down in the chat as soon as I find it. How's the temperature? This is so easy. I'm letting this temperature slide up and down by like 10 degrees here. Well, admittedly it's 1.8 volts and yeah, but so here's testing of the Asus board. That's that. And I did a 3-way crossfire run on the Taichi just for fun. And it was fun until I tried to tweak the memory and the BIOS did the Taichi thing. So, yeah. And here's the submission of that. Oops. That's actually like a good score for me. My global points are miserable. I have to work on those again. But yeah, here's the three-way score. Temperature 105. There. Yeah, no, that's the thing I've been doing with AMD stock fan coolers. Like the fans from the stock coolers from AMD, I've been using those for ages to just cool little things. It's like, ooh, I need to cool the VRM, use the AMD stock cooler. I need to cool the RAM, stock cooler fan. I need to cool VRM or whatever. It's just, I grab that fan because it's a free fan, it's small, you can shove it in places where a 120 won't fit. And you still push a decent amount of air. And there we go, it's done. 9 minutes 57. It's not actually that bad. Ooh, and I forgot to set priority. I'm an idiot. We'll have to rerun that. Unless somebody wants me to push it to 5.9. Should have opened that competition up in another page. There we go. Please don't use the NBE loop for pulling. I already have a... That radiator is actually in push-pull. There's a different fan on the front of it, as it's a Cooler Master air pressure one, but not the Master Maker series. It's like, it's the stock cool fan for that Seidon. And the NBE loop, that one is the highest RPM fan I have. Like, that's the second... That one's 2.4K, the front fan is like 2K, so basically it was a case of those two match up relatively well for maximum performance on that AIO. How on earth is he doing 9 minutes 11? Does RAM actually matter for this benchmark? That might be it. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, we'll have to mess with the RAM on this motherboard. I'm gonna kill myself. So, the problem with this board, the many problems with this board, as far as the RAM is concerned, is it does not do 1T at any decent frequency. But let's save this score and then we'll go into the BIOS and try that. I'll also throw more CPU core clock at the problem just because I can. Throw more gigahertz at it. That always helps. And he's using 512. Okay. So it does look like the 5 million batch size and reduction size of 512 is the best option, since everybody seems to be using that. Main board and save result. Save that. Okay. Restart. There we go. Where did I get the flexible fan mount for my test bed? That came with it. The DMOS Tech Easy V3 comes with that fan arm thing. So, yeah. That's not an accessory. Also, the company that made that test bench is now bankrupt, so yeah, finding that might be a bit hard, if not impossible. Memory settings, 4133, that's not going to work at all. Let's try 4013 or 4014 or something like that. 400, that's really loose. 320. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. 32, that's loose. 24, no, 28. I don't know how far this motherboard can do. 65K, that's fine. TCK, okay, that's good. Also, for some reason, I can't get the RTLs to set on this motherboard. I think that's probably most of the that causes most of the issues with memory on this board, so that's gonna be great. Let's see if this boots. I'm gonna have to check like my one of my older screenshots to compare against. CPU core. I can't do anything about these any longer. Can crank these up. That's too high. Let's go for that. Please don't boot loop. I should have saved a profile. Yeah, it's boot looping. That's not going to post. If I'm lucky, it's going to be telling me that it wiped the BIOS or something. Oh, my second run was slower. Great. That's probably because I forgot to set priority in Windows, so... Oh, we're in luck. I think the memory actually... It actually picked it up. Oh, no. It underclocked it. Yeah, that's the thing about this board. If it can't get your memory settings to work, it'll drop the system clock. It'll drop the clock. Let's see. How can I force it? Let's see if it can do it at 3733. And then I'll try the fast. Nope, that's boot looping as well. Actually, it might make it. I'm gonna try force the board to do like 3866 using the fast boot, because you can basically fast boot skips a lot of the post process, so you can force, like, you can trick the motherboard into posting settings that shouldn't work. What the hell? Why is it acting like I've hit the cold boot bug? Okay, now it looks like it's working normal. Yeah, I wiped the BIOS. Great. I'm gonna go grab more LN2 while this figures out what it wants to do. I might just have to run like 3600 at CL11. That might actually work on this motherboard. Oh, we're going into... Oh, wait, it's bone stock. Idiotic board. And I don't actually have the board wired for, like, the wires I have aren't reset, and one of them is power, the other one is wipe BIOS. I don't have the other one wired to reset, because generally, if something's wrong with this board, then I need to reset the BIOS. More useful to have it wired that way. Okay, BIOS has been reset, which is exactly what I expected it to do. Go. Load profiles. Oh yeah, see? Now it lost all the profiles. They're missing, right? Is like, where did all my profiles go? Which is why I'm using the flash stick for saving all the profiles, because the board otherwise just, something happens and it forgets all the profiles for some reason. And then if you reboot it again, then the profiles come back eventually. This board is weird. Do 3600. Should be able to do those settings at, let's see, actually 1414. I can actually, yeah, I'll just max that out. It doesn't make a difference. And voltage. Yeah, there's nothing left to change at this point, so let's see if that works. let it go all the way to Windows. Ooh, I'll probably have to set max mem. There we go, and we're in. So let's check this. 3600, 14, 14, 14. That's all good. We're gonna need to enable maximum memory, 4096, which I'll just put in 4000. And this is basically to get Samsung VDI memory clocks better if you limit how much RAM the OS can apply, access. So let's restart. Otherwise, it crashes at random in the OS. Let's see if I can do 11. I'll just go straight for 11. Please work. Okay. That was one boot loop, second, third. Yeah, it didn't work. Unless maybe. Yeah, no, it didn't work. Oh, there we are. Finally in the BIOS. Probably going to tell me that it wiped itself. Actually, it didn't. Oh, no, it underclocked itself again. Why does this board do that? This is such, like, I get it. The timings are too hard to do at 3600. Doesn't mean you can just drop the frequency. So I'll have to boot it at lower, boot it back up, pull it up. Everybody else is getting 3866 working somehow, so, and 12, 12, 12. So this is gonna be really hard. 3600. Please work. An incredible pile of garbage. Okay, so that's 3614, hopefully. Yeah, that's 3614. Let's see if it does 12. Since it evidently doesn't do 11. Please do 12. At least do 12. Because from 12, I can fast boot into 3733. Okay, cool. This works. Advanced frequency, no. No. Advanced memory settings. Channel A. I'll try 12, 12, 12. 28, and hopefully this will work. And then if this works, then I'm also going to try like 12, 11, 11, 28. And just steadily try to step it down on the timings, because I don't think it'll work above 3600 or much above 3600. Okay, we're back. Temperatures are getting a little toasty at minus 100. I'll just pull the CPU down again a bit. There we go. And let's see, memory settings. Channel A. Yeah, I'll go all the way into the OS at this point and see how this runs, if it's faster. This time I won't forget to do priority. Oops. Oh. Go. set. Run. Okay, so while we wait for this thing to kindly move its ass and calculate some pi, questions? Did it die? No, seems to be. Mouse still moves. Okay, it's working. The voltage reading. And we're at 106. Let's pull it back down. Safe benching voltage for 6700K. I wouldn't go past sort of 1.55 volts, assuming that you can even cool 1.55 volts. Is Maxwell voltage locked? Yes. Actually, no. Maxwell, I think you can BIOS mod higher voltages. There's a Maxwell BIOS editor, if I'm not mistaken, but I've never really worked with nvidia Maxwell cards, or really any nvidia cards. I can't wait to get my hand, like, rip into the GTX 1070. That's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna take back control from NVIDIA's evil boost algorithm. Would a 360mm AIO make sense over a 240 for a Ryzen 8-core OC? How is Dirt Rally Pro Driver Career going? I've actually, so, 360 AIO and 240 Ryzen 8-core. You know what? Get back to me with that later. Asetek have recently contacted me about getting AIOs for testing at actually hardcore overclocking. So I'm thinking of getting a 360mm and a 240mm AIO, and I can test that for you, and then I can tell you which one's better. Because I'm not actually, like, Gamers Nexus recently tested a 360mm AIO, and the performance really wasn't that great compared to some 240s and 280mm AIOs. So I'm not sure, maybe I'm not sure what that's about, and, you know, that there could be some kind of performance issue with the RAD being too long or something. I'm not entirely sure. AIOs aren't exactly my area of expertise, but the easiest way to know if something's better than something else is to test both of them. So, yeah. Right, does the 970 Pro Gaming Aura overdo what you said on the voltage? Yeah, that memory voltage on most motherboards is, like, really not that well regulated. Like, what you set in software versus what you actually get, it tends to be quite different. Though actually the Maximus 9 Apex is really good about that. You set 2 volts, you get 2 volts. But a lot of other motherboards, you set 1.5, you get a bit more. You set 1.6, you get a bit more, and some boards actually get steadily worse and worse. Like, they give you more and more voltage as you go up But yeah. Do voltage measurement points on MBs report the correct voltage? Depends on the motherboard. That, like, really depends on the... Like, depends on how it's wired. I actually want to do a test. I don't want to do it, like, I don't want to physically modify my Apex. So I'm not going to test it on that motherboard, but I think if I get my hands on a Gigabyte K7, which I did send the, like, I've asked. I don't know why Gigabyte has a problem sending me a motherboard. I like their boards. Except this one, because quite frankly, I'm using it completely wrong. But Yeah, no, if I get like a K7, that thing has voltage read points, so I might compare like what you get from the back of the socket versus against the voltage read points. I've heard that some of the voltage read points aren't necessarily, like they're wired to say the middle of the voltage plane, so they might actually be reading a little bit higher than what you would get off of the back of the socket. There we go. Is 1.3 volts safe for Hawaii daily overclocking on air? Yes. That's perfectly safe. I've run 1.3 volts on a 290X with a, what was it, Wind Force cooler from Gigabyte. That card hit like 85 degrees under load because the Wind Force cooler is that was a 2-slot cooler, and it was fine. Actually, it wasn't, it would hit like 85 in summer or something. It wasn't that bad, but yeah. I've been trying to get my 1700 to 4 gigahertz, but I can't seem to get it stable under stress past 3.95, no matter how much voltage I give it. Is it possible my X370 Pro is holding me back? I have no idea how about the 1700 4 gigahertz. How much are you actually trying to give the 1700? Like, how much voltage are you trying to give it? Because it could be the board, but I don't know. You know, if you're not saying how much voltage you're using, how am I supposed to tell you? My 1700 needs 1.4 volts just to pass Cinebench. So to get fully stable, it would probably need about 1.42, 1.43, maybe? Also, another thing about Ryzen is it really likes to run colder. So if you can get a bigger, like the bigger the cooler you can get for your Ryzen CPU, the better it'll overclock. That's another thing. Yeah. About Ryzen. So, man, this benchmark is slow. I need more LN2, so it's at 103. I'm going to tip in the rest, and I'll get a fill up. At least it's not using a ton of liquid nitrogen. I'll still have some left for the ROG OC showdown. And I think I might have overpoured. Nah, it's going to be fine. There we go. Yeah, it's fine. 15, 3.925 only needs about 3.8. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. That just sounds like your chip is maxed out. What kind of LLC are you setting? That's another thing. Depending on what LLC you have, you might, like... That's another thing worth noting. Also, keep in mind that like 3.9 gigahertz, 1.4 volts seems to be the sort of average for a Ryzen 1700. So, you know, hitting 3.95 is really not that bad. It's actually completely average. Do I use dielectric grease on Intel or AMD sockets? No. I don't see a reason why. Generally speaking, the socket will be completely covered in ice at minus 107 degrees. I mean, actually, I think this board might be... Yeah, there's actually ice buildup. Put you closer to that. You can actually see there's a little bit of ice buildup right over there. That's starting to ice up. That white patch, that's ice. Because the Kaby Lake CPUs just put out so little heat, and especially the i3, that the entire board is gonna... Like, the longer we run this, the more it's gonna spread through the motherboard. Like, the RAM sticks are cold. These are sub-ambient. Basically, over time, the entire motherboard will freeze through. And there's actually, like, pictures of LN2 setups after, like, 5 hours with a mini ITX board, where just the entire thing is just ice. There's nothing left. There's no water or anything. It's just ice. Ice all the way to the USB connector. So, yeah. Did the Tai Chi survive the soldering? Of course it survived the soldering. I've done this mod a million times. What do you think is measuring the V-core on this thing? This wire right here. You can't even really see it, but this wire right here, same mod as the Tai Chi. I'm not that bad at soldering. Honestly, delitting my CPU is like more nerve. Like, I get more nervous delitting a CPU than just attaching a vCore Sense line. This is like the easiest of the easy of the mods. Are you kidding me? 10 minutes? How does it keep getting slower? Okay, I'm changing back to the, what was it, 20 by 64? We'll try that batch size. Because that is beyond me. Did it underclock or something? Oh, the temperature's going back up. There we go. Okay, this is just going to ruin that score. So I'm going to stop that one. Yeah, we're at 5.8 gigahertz. Why the hell? 5.5, 18, yeah. The hell? Could the memory? I guess maybe since I underclocked the memory, it actually lost performance, but that'd be weird. 3612 should be faster than 413317. I guess 413316 is the next thing to test then. Am I concerned that you might be concerned I might be losing viewers to Eurovision? No. Not at all. I mean, I've never even seen Eurovision. I have no idea. I expect people who want to watch this kind of thing probably don't care about Eurovision. So, yeah. I think this is faster. Like, this first loop is already faster than last time. I think last time it was 23. I need to start taking screenshots of even the bad runs, just so I can compare while it's running. Also, I need to keep track of the temperature better. Interestingly enough, Intel actually really Intel actually cares about extreme overclocking a lot more than, like, AMD and Intel are pretty much the best companies for overclocking. Nvidia is the ones that, like sure, Intel doesn't have a warranty for overclocking, but that's never been a thing. You never, like, you overclocked any time, you don't have a warranty. And of course, any official statement is going to be like, oh yeah, we don't recommend that you run your system outside of outside of stock, but really, Intel is like, Intel have done things like Broadwell E has per core overclocking. Like, you can literally go and say, I want core 1 running at 5.3 gigahertz, and I want core 2 running at 5.5, and I want core, like, Intel made that possible. Like, they actually went and worked with motherboard vendors to make that a thing. The AVX underclock thing that you see on Z270, that was another sort of Intel motherboard vendor collaboration. Then, like, yeah, I mean, Intel, like, you know, sure, they're overpriced and all that, but they do actually sort of care about the overclocking community. By far the worst is NVIDIA. It's like, NVIDIA is just like, oh yeah, we want to make a GTX 1080 that can go past 1.09 volts. Nope, no, you can't do that. It's gonna die in a year. God, I hate that interview. There's a interview up on YouTube with somebody from NVIDIA, and they're like, oh yeah, if you slide the voltage slider to a maximum, it decreases the GPU's lifespan to only 1 year. It's like, no, like, what? How is your GPU? Is your GPU so incredibly fragile that 1.1, like less than 1.1 volts will kill it in a year? Seriously? It's ridiculous. Like, either they're running their GPUs completely maxed out, or it's like TSMC's 16 nanometer is the most fragile thing ever. So, yeah, and actually, yeah, Intel does have the overclocking warranty, which doesn't cover delitting. Doesn't cover that, as far as I know. Though apparently Intel RMA is really good about taking just about anything. Like, you can send pretty much anything as long as you don't tell them that you've overclocked or delitted or anything, and it doesn't look really obvious that you have. they're probably gonna be okay with whatever you send in. I'm not sure about the Pascal BIOSes being encrypted or anything. I've never looked into NVIDIA BIOS modding. But apparently it's encrypted. But then again, people said that the 7900 series from AMD, like the 7000 series and AMD cards, were apparently also had encryption, which turned out to be completely wrong. The BIOS wasn't encrypted, it was just different from, I think, 6000 series. GC and BIOS is actually so easy to work with, I love it. Except for some reason I have a real, like, RX 480s are easy, RX 580s are easy. Fury cards are relatively, like, well, I really shouldn't say it's easy, but it's like I can get around the BIOS well enough to do what I need. Which really isn't that great because my BIOS modding skills aren't anything to celebrate. But the 7990, I have a problem with. The newest drivers don't recognize that card for some reason, so I need to test with older drivers, but I think that's it. Because actually, like, the 7990 BIOS, if you compare it to, like, compare it to the new Fury, like the Fury and RX 480 BIOS, the power limit is done differently, very differently. The power states are different, but the memory timing table is the same. It's completely the same thing. The general structure of the BIOS, like where you find what, is also very, very similar. So actually going for, like, when I was modding the 7990, it wasn't that different from modding a 480. Except for the whole, like, the power limit is done completely differently. The power limit on the 7000 series is you have, like, a minimum limit and maximum limit. And the power and the value in between those is your stock power limit. You don't have the thing where, like, in RX 480s, you can just set, like, a really high power limit, and then there's a separate power limit for when overclocking, like you can adjust plus 50% or plus 20, plus 5%. You don't have that on 7000 series, as far as I can tell. But I need to experiment with the 7990 more. I haven't really had time to play with it as much as I'd like to. So the thing about the stock coolers is, personally, I just think stock coolers suck in general, and you shouldn't buy them anyway. Just never, ever. And I actually want to really do a test where I do, like, a crossfire setup, and we try to do, like, blower cards with, like, stock style cooler designs versus custom cards. Because the thing about the blowers is, if you have a blower cooler, right, and under perfect conditions it's still hitting 90 degrees, then if you put it in a giant GPU sandwich, it's gonna run even hotter. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, it'll run better than, no, it'll just run even hotter. Whereas if you have, like, when you have the open air style coolers, which is chuck hot air everywhere, at least if those pick up, like, if you take one of those and you test it at 20 degrees ambient, right, and then you build a GPU sandwich where the air it's pulling in is 40 degrees, then it will just go up, the core temperature will go plus 20 degrees, because literally that's, you know, that's how coolers work, and I keep forgetting to keep the temperature on the damn system here. It's at 90, it dropped well below, well above minus 100 at this point, so. Yeah, but stock coolers, I really don't think they're worth it. I do want to do a test to get, like, blowers against open air, but I've run open air coolers in crossfire setups, and it really wasn't that bad. And it was still quieter than, like, a stock cooler on one card, which is my favorite part. It's like, oh yeah, It's running 85 degrees instead of 75 because, you know, it's in crossfire. But it's still quieter than if I was running a stock cooler on one card, because stock coolers are just that terrible, which I feel like a lot of people don't realize. This is running faster. This is actually running faster. Why on earth is everybody running... I might be running a different... Oh, I'm on OpenCL 2.0. That might be it. Whereas I think everybody else is on 1.2. Yeah, everybody else is on OpenCL 1.2. That is interesting. Very interesting. So, 924. Progress has been made. That's good. So, let's take a screenshot. So now I actually, yeah, I'll have to mess with the batch size myself. And the reduction size. Because I'm using a different OpenCL version, so it doesn't take to the same settings as everybody else's. Damn it. And yeah, I could probably go grab the correct OpenCL version, but I don't wanna. Either way, it's not like I'm gonna be winning this competition. So I might as well, like, just see where I can push it as is. Save result file. Skip GPU. Save. Okay. Save. Your result was successfully saved, and this was 924. Okay, so I think let's go for 5.9 gigahertz and then work, then mess with the batch sizes again, and probably also try the memory going faster. I'll try 12, 11, 11. Might actually do that. You know what? I should have sent an email on Friday whether or not there is an LN2 delivery this Monday in my area, because I think I'm gonna... I told it to restart, didn't I? And it just went back into the OS, didn't it? Or didn't I? Whatever. Yeah, because I'm running low on LN2. And even though this is not really that... Like, it's not using that much, it's still a case of I don't feel like I have enough. I never have enough, so that's not a new thing. It's just okay, so we're at 36 on what the okay, I have no idea what the memory is doing. Let's just do that. It should actually run at that, and advanced memory settings. Well, actually, I'm gonna do the memory settings as well. 280. TCWL, that is, if I remember correctly, that's terrible. At 10. TWR, okay, I actually need to pull up a screenshot at this point, because I can't remember my memory settings at all. Where did I even save all my memory settings? Oh no. Great, I'm a genius. I have no idea what this memory is capable of. That good job, me. Great, okay. Any interest in Threadripper? I already said earlier in the stream that I'm really excited for 399, for X399, because it's going to be, like, it should be absolutely brutal for time spy physics. But that's about it. It'll suck at everything else because the other 3D Mark benchmarks are too high FPS for the amount of IPC that Ryzen currently has. And it also doesn't clock quite high enough. If it could hit higher clocks, then it wouldn't really be a problem. You know what? I'm actually just going to leave that as is and hope that this works at all. It's not boot looping, so that's good. No, not Cinebench, damn it. It's automatic. Ooh, we're in the OS. Let's run Cinebench. Okay. Set priority high. Let's see what this is saying. The 295X2's cooler wasn't bad because that was a water cooler. Like, even the little 120mm AIOs, if you put them on a GPU, they do an excellent job of cooling them. Like, really, really excellent job. And I just realized I completely forgot to put a notification on the YouTube channel that I'm streaming right now. I'm a genius, aren't I? I should make like a generic stream announcement video and just post that every single time I stream. Oh well. I was wondering why there wasn't the... why we're at like the viewer count today is a bit lower than usual, and that's probably why. I forgot to tell everybody on YouTube about it. Oh well. Let's just run it as is. Wait, you met Michael? Let's see. No YouTube announcement. Yeah, no YouTube announcement. I'm really, you know, really. That's the thing. I haven't streamed in ages. I completely forgot how I do this thing. Oh, it's actually running a decent amount. Yeah, that's faster than last time. I mean, of course it is. It's at 5.9 gigahertz. So, yeah. I can't exactly make an announcement at this point because I can't record, like, OBS is flaky with stability. So there's a good chance if I try to record an announcement now, it's going to crash the actual stream, so we're not doing that. I'll just deal with the reduced view count. I don't really... It's not a huge deal. Yeah, the 360mm AIO from Arctic, that's exactly the one I was thinking about testing because it's so cheap. Because personally, I don't like AIOs that much because of how expensive they are. So I really like, and then I saw the Arctic ones and I was like, whoa, these are actually competitive with like top-end air coolers, at least in terms of price. I'd really like to test these. Also, the other cool thing about AIOs is, well, actually, I'll save that. That'll be a surprise for when I get them. That'll be fun. No, the temperature. Damn it, I keep forgetting that this thing needs to be... I'm the world's worst LN2 overclocker. The temperature keeps dropping and below, going up. Man, we got a real ranging AMD fanboy here today. I don't even remember that name, so that's new. There we go. How's the temperature? Damn, it's... The one thing I don't like about this temperature range is you pour LN2 in that and it vaporizes, like, as soon as it basically touches the bottom of the LN2 pot, it vaporizes. And so as you keep pouring, it's sort of, the gas basically causes a LN2 sort of explosion upwards. Worst temperature range to benchmark at, minus 100-ish. minus 110 to minus 1... I think minus 140 it stops being so violent. Well, it's best when it's either full pot or you're at like minus 90. That's the best range. Leidenfrost effect. At this point, the inside of the LN2 pod is pretty much entirely covered in ice. It's not, like, the temperature switch, like, you can tell that it's glazed properly at this point, so it's not really a problem. And really, the Leidenfrost effect doesn't actually force you to use more LN2, it just slows down how, like, if you pour a lot of LN2 into the LN2 pot, it'll take longer to boil away. Because basically, the Leidenfrost effect is not, like, it's not decreasing, it's not chewing up extra LN2, it's insulating the LN2 from doing any cooling work. So since it's insulating the LN2, your LN2 boils slower, so your temperature and cooling performance is worse. Like, your temperature changes slower, and your temperature, temperature changes slower and your cooling performance is worse. Which, like, glazing the LN2 pot is really, really important on, like, GPUs and CPUs, because even with some of the really, like, a lot of the really intricate designs with, like, high surface area internally, if you pour LN2 into those, if they're not glazed properly, the Leidenfrost effect basically reduces the thermal transfer of the pot to basically nothing. And, like, a GPU can easily go ambient with the LN2 pot full. So, can Frank please, like, yeah, there. That helps. that was a bit too much at this point. What a scam. Ugh. And I've let the temperature go up way too much again. At least it's not crashing. There, and now it's, yeah, it just shoots down. I think I might have overpoured. Could we, like... Oh, that's solved. LN2 hits MOBO or RAM. Nothing. Well, actually, no. If I was to, like, upend, like, there's still a good amount of LN2 in this right now. If I was to upend this onto the system, it would probably break the, like, it would... Everything would end up covered in ice, and the sudden change in temperature would probably cause the motherboard to warp. Just because, you know, as it cools down, it would shrink, and it would try to shrink against the standoffs, which wouldn't want to shrink with it, so the board would probably bend. It could crack solder. You don't really want to thermally shock things like that in general. But, you know, there was an event where somebody finished their benchmarking session and they were like, yeah, I'm done with this. Do whatever to the system. And we upended like a couple liters of LN2 onto a motherboard. And other than the warping, it was actually fine. Like, it actually even worked after the motherboard dried off again. It worked again, so yeah. But it is, like, if you're actually benchmarking, it is a good way to accidentally crash your system. The minor spills that I have where it just drips off of it doesn't matter. So, yeah. I am sold out to Intel. Oh my god! I sold out to Intel. Whoa! Yeah, technically this would be selling out to Gigabyte, except I had to buy my own Gigabyte motherboard, and Gigabyte still won't sell me one. I mean, send me one. And I've let it get too warm again. I'm such an Intel shill that I'm replacing my X99 5930K with Ryzen as soon as I have enough money to buy another to buy another 8 core. So, yeah. No, Gigabyte will happily sell MOBOs to me. They won't send them. It's like, I just want to test a Gigabyte gaming case. I would just want to test the X370K7. Why is that so hard to understand? Currently it's the only high-end motherboard with dual BIOS, I think. Also, right now they are the first to have the, what is it, AGESA 1005 version. Yay! Oh, that's actually decently fast at this point. 914. I'm not far. Not far. I'm going to actually tweak it now. I'm going to mess with the reduction size and batch size some more. We'll see if I can get a better score. But yeah, this is not bad. This is really not a bad score. I'm not far off from that goal I had, which admittedly is a pretty lame goal to have, but yeah. Memory. Oh, I've opened memory twice there. Just ban him outright at this point. Wait, why am I the Trump of overclocking? I'm not following. Oh, I sold out to nvidia. Oh yeah, I totally sold out to nvidia. NVIDIA makes best GPUs. If you like your GPUs really not listening to you. I really can't wait to rip into that 1070. That's just gonna be so fun, just disabling everything. I actually figured out like one thing that I'm super excited to try is manual, like I'm gonna hard lock the voltage control on that GTX 1070. Why am I doing it this way? No, full screen. There we go. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm really an idiot. I keep forgetting this is one of these. Save file, yes. Let's just save that. Okay. Oh no, I wanted to tweak, not push more. Okay, so calculate and I wonder, okay, you know what, let's try, I kind of suspect it might be the reduction size first, not the batch size, so let's try 5, and actually I'll note down the first 4 loops, just to see how, because if I take the first 4 loops and we can see really quickly how much faster this was, so 20.925 for the first one, 41, and this is getting warm again. Go 41.7 105 038 and the next one is 139.480. Cool. So let's try 5 mil, and that was 20M. Okay. You've never seen me overclock LN2. I mean AMD. Ooh! This is faster. This is a lot faster. This should be good. I need more LN2. But nobody's... Here's the thing. I did AMD overclocking live streams like a while ago, and I actually... Like, right now there's a lot of Intel competitions, but, like... My favorite platform of all time to overclock is by far AM3. It's just so easy. And I'm excited to, like, I can't wait to do more Ryzen overclocking, but right now it's Intel competitions, so that's why I'm doing all the Intel stuff. Also, Intel is worth a lot of points. And until Ryzen, AMD really didn't have a competitive... Like, AMD CPUs were good for legacy, like low core count benchmarks, like Phenom 2 X2s are great because you can unlock them to 3 cores, and then they're in 3-core global category. So I want to do some benchmarking of that. The FX9, like my FX 9590, I used that for an 8 gigahertz attempt. That was last year, though. Actually, no, that might have been... I can't even remember when I did that. That was probably last year. That was fun. I did another 8 gigahertz attempt and failed that time because I changed motherboards, but I actually plan to do yet one more 8 gigahertz attempt because since my second attempt, I figured out how to work with AMD's PS Check program, which basically lets you clock so you can have like all 8 cores on the CPU enabled, but you can actually clock the cores individually, like you can adjust the multiplier. So what I want to do is I want to take the Gigabyte 990FX gaming board, and that board, like, it's not great for if you're overclocking an AMD 8-core, you have a power limit problem. But if you're just doing like a CPU Z 8 gigahertz screenshot, the power limit doesn't matter because you're not actually running any load. Yeah, this is a lot faster, but you're not actually running any load, so it doesn't matter on that motherboard. And that motherboard has something called, like, that motherboard has 4 cores, 4 modules mode. So basically, I'll only have 1 core in each of the 4 modules that make up a FX 9590. And that basically spreads the heat out better. And theoretically, it should give me an edge. Also, the board goes up to 2.3 volts on the V-core. So I really, really plan to, like, just try to max out the CPU on that motherboard one day. But that day, I have no idea when that'll come. And after I do that, the 9590 is getting sold or something. I'm not really sure. Well, sold. Sold. Definitely sold. I need more so I can fund more parts. Actually, speaking of selling actually hardcore overclocking equipment and hardware, I had this idea. I could make like an AHOC junkyard thing up on the blog where it would just be a list of all the different hardware I have that I want to get rid of, and people could just send in offers. So, yeah. That's one idea. And basically, it's send in offers. Either I'll tell you, sure, you can take whatever it is that you wanted or not. No. $5 6950X. Unfortunately, I think I'll be keeping the 6950X for a while. That thing, it's just like, there's some platforms which, like, I want to keep some platforms just because they're that platform. I am very much a hardware collector. But there's things like, right now, I really want to get rid of my Samsung D-die memory, because that clocks like absolute garbage, so I want to get rid of it. Then there's this motherboard, assuming I don't kill it by accident, that could go. What else is there? That's probably it. Oh, all of the random AMD CPUs I have. Like, I have a ton of AMD AM3 Plus CPUs, which I won't need, and I'll probably just give those away. They're not even worth selling, in my opinion. No, I'm not going to be selling any dead hardware. See, the thing is, like, dead GPUs is... Let's see. Especially dead GPUs, this is what I made with the dead RX 480, right? So this is basically just an RX 480 VRM on its own. And I can hook this up to anything and, VRM replacement mods with this. Actually, I had the idea of hooking this up to this motherboard. And then I decided that's a dumb idea because this motherboard, like the voltage controller on here is just too, like I can't get a full data sheet for the voltage controller here. And I don't have any contacts at Gigabyte that I could ask about how this motherboard is wired or anything, so trying to do a VRM replacement on this thing is just generally a bad idea. But when the GT730, when I get my GT730, I will be hooking this up to the GT730. That's the plan. And if this works well, then I'm probably going to also do the GTR in not too long, because this is just, I want to have a ton of extra VRMs just lying around. Can never have enough of these. Speaking of external VRM boards, I can't wait for the new ePower, which is coming out right after Computex. This has been confirmed. EVGA, I'm actually not sure where we'll be able to buy them, but the new ePowers are coming out, and they'll be 12 plus 2-phase VRM, and they've massively changed it. Like, it's way nicer to work with. My biggest complaint on the current ePower, which I'll show you as soon as I pull the system back down a bit. There we go. So, the current ePower, my main problem with it is, it looks like this, and actually I'll put you on the bigger camera. Current ePower looks like this. My main issue with this is that this is V-core, this edge down here, and this back here is ground, that's ground, and of course all the screw holes are ground. But the problem is, if you want to wire this up to a GPU, then this is like, you know, let's see. We have random, there has to be a GPU somewhere. Let's just grab the Fury X. There. So if I wanted to attach this, this one's dead. This is the dead Fury X. But if I wanted to attach this to this Fury X, then I'd probably be attaching it like so. And then how do I do my ground soldering? Right? Like, how the hell do I get in there? So the new ePower, what they're changing is they're actually going to put a V-core, there's a V-core plane, and it looks like there's going to be a ground plane right behind that. So basically you can have like V-core, you can just solder V-core right into where the chokes on the GPU originally were. And then you can pull wires from ground to just any ground you can see anywhere on the front of the card. So that's going to be way nicer to work with. So I'm super excited for that to release. As well as they're changing the VRM. You're getting a whole second VRM on there, which is also useful. Because basically, the addition of the second VRM on the ePower means that you can use the ePower to replace both V-core and one other voltage, which unlike, say, a Fury X or an R9 290X or most of the AMD cards, using the International Rectifier 3567B, except like RX 480s, that is actually hugely useful because the 3567B usually regulates two voltages at the same time, and you can't really, tricking that voltage controller to function on one VRM and not on the other is really, really hard. So it's much better if you can just completely replace both VRMs and tell the GPU that everything is fine, instead of trying to convince the voltage controller that, yes, everything is actually fine, which is a lot harder. Did this crash? No, it didn't. So, yeah. Is my homemade ePower still working? Yeah, that RX 480 VRM still works. It hasn't blown up. Or anything. It still runs like garbage, but I kind of think that's because it's unloaded every time I test it. When it was on the GTX 570, it seemed to work a little bit better than it works when it's completely unloaded, which makes sense because the IR3567B that controls it has all kinds of fancy efficiency shaping stuff, and if it detects that there's basically no power going through the VRM, it has to be super confused. Yay! I've actually caught up to the best score, like the score I wanted to, haven't I? Please tell me. 9-11. Yes! I beat him! I'm in 3rd place! Yes! Admittedly, I'm doing it with... I'm doing that with, like, almost a 200 megahertz core clock advantage, but hey, nobody ever said I have to be efficient. More gigahertz is more better. I'll take that. So let's save this. What clock does this memory go to? I've had it at 4.5 gigahertz highest. The highest performance memory, like the highest performance settings I've had on it was 4012, 11, 11, 28. 4012, 11, 11, 28, yeah. There's a video up on the YouTube channel where I cover it. And actually, I do want to test this memory kit some more. Like, I really want to test high maximum frequency on the Apex with like my 7700K under LN2 and with only one stick of RAM, and just do a few things differently to try get it to clock higher, because 4.5 gigahertz is really not that high, considering that this is a hand-binned kit from Team Group. And I think they were binning them for maximum speed. So this kit should have more left in it. It's just a case of I'm too much of a noob to get that more. So, yeah, save result file. Save file, okay. Save. I wonder, should we tweak more or should we just go for 6 gigahertz? Oh, the kit I want to get rid of. That's D-die, not B-die. That's a D-die kit. Completely different. It's 4 gig sticks. It goes the... I've seen it... I've pushed it to like 3600, 14, 19, 19. At like 1.9 volts. And on X99 it can run 3400, 13, 18, 18. It's terrible. It's really, really bad. Why not both? Okay. Do I need to raise the voltage or PCA? Wait. BCLK, if you're adjusting BCLK, what voltages you have to change depends on the platform. On Z270, you don't have to adjust the PCH voltage because the BCLK is completely separate from it's actually separated. And yeah, okay, this is annoying. Just need to clean off some of the snow on the lip of the thermos. Soaking up too much of the LN2 when I try to pour. There we go. Did I save this? Yeah, I did save this, didn't I? Let me just check. Yeah, okay, this is saved. So let's go for 6 gigahertz. Okay. Ivy Bridge, don't use BCLK overclocking at all. That's the only advice I can give you. Do not BCLK overclock Ivy Bridge. It sucks. It's just, no. And if you are overclocking it, then yeah. And if for some reason you absolutely have to, you will have to tweak the PCH voltage up, as well as some other voltages. There we go. So this is the highest settings that I could pass Cinebench at. I'm kind of tempted to try if the memory won't do 3610. Like 10 on this and 10 on that. That's a dumb thing to test. Let's just test 6 gigahertz first, then after that we'll try 3600, 12, 10, 10. Wait, what was that batch size? I was running 5 mil. Right, yeah. D-die, B-die, and stuff like that. Basically, the RAM makers, they make different types of memory chips. So, like, D-die is a 4 gigabit, or actually, wait, yeah, it's 4 gigabit. So that's a 4 gigabit memory IC, and it's it's basically like a different CPU. I've already tested 5 million and 5 million batch and 512 reduction. It's the slowest of the lot so far. I think it's because of the OpenCL version I'm on. Are you going to make a video on the new 2.3 Taichi BIOS? Yes, I am. I do have that planned. I've just not got it, I haven't had the time to get around to it yet. So, yeah. 5 mil 64. I think the best way to do this is going to be to... I'm going to work the batch size a few more down and we'll see. Whatever, we'll just run this because this was last time. These settings were the best last time. Hopefully it won't crash. And actually, I'll go get more LN2 before we start this, and I'll try to keep this as cold as possible. Intentionally. I'm starting to think I won't have any LN2 left by the time the GT730 arrives. I'm going to probably have to run dry ice on that. Just so that I have LN2 for Ryzen, because Ryzen really doesn't like dry ice. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I'll do. So GT730 turns up, I'll do that card on dry ice. And what the hell is with my core voltage? Oh. Why is the CPU at stock clock suddenly? What the hell? is wrong with this motherboard? I get my liquid nitrogen from a company here in the UK called... Ooh, maybe I knocked this button by accident. That would be dumb. Oh, great, wait. Last known good. Oh. Okay, so I'll have to redial it in. So I get my LN2 from a company here in the UK called Mansfield Cryogenics. Yeah. And they basically deliver LN2 to my door, so that's really nice and convenient. CPU core voltage, 1.8. Max that out, because it doesn't do anything anyway. VRAM, that's 1.9. Just give it extra for the hell of it. I don't want to mess around. Advanced memory, 4133. I'm really tempted to run like this motherboard just isn't capable. Non-K, want to get the best out of it. Yeah, you're gonna have, actually you're also, yeah, you're gonna have to tweak the PCH voltage a little bit. I've never really done that much BCLK overclocking, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about this. 280. TCWL is trash. I'll just try 9. Let's try, I'll try 57. Let's hope this works. And it's really warm right now. Skylake, I haven't done a Skylake non-K overclock at all. I wanted to, but I never got around to doing it. Like, I didn't have, like... I only got my hands on LGA 1151 in, like, when the Apex turned up, which was, like, January? Yeah, that was January this year or something. So, basically, I didn't do any Skylake overclocking at all. I think it wiped again. Yeah. Why is the board being stupid now? It's at 6 gigahertz. No? Okay. CPU core. The thermal monitor disable. Yeah. Okay, we'll see. Maybe the thermal sensor in the CPU is glitching out. That's what I'm hoping for. I'll also drop the core clock down one and that down one. See if that maybe fixes it. I mean, 5.9 worked. Windows CPU, what do I think of CPU OC software from Windows? For daily overclocks, just use the BIOS. If you're doing extreme overclocking, yeah, they are very useful for pushing that last little, like, you get into Windows. For, like, CPU validations, it's necessary. Some memory, you need to fine-tune it with VCLK in OS. There's a few things that you basically have to use like in-OS OC utilities for, but generally I recommend, like, try to avoid it. Especially for daily usage, definitely don't use them. Like, Ryzen Master for daily is just, in my opinion, completely stupid. It's like, people keep forgetting that, like, AMD's overdrive and like AMD, you know, for all they try to make nice overclocking utilities, there's always just some ridiculous, awful bug in all of them that makes them absolutely unusable. It's like why I've never used overdrive or any of the other thing. Like, I've only used, like, when AMD still did CPU overdrive, I only ever used it for checking, like, CPU temperature, because it was the only utility that reliably read, okay, we're at 6 gigahertz now. Memory is, yeah. That was the only utility that properly read CPU temperature for FX and a lot of the 32 nanometer and 45, like a lot of the AMD CPUs at the time. So, but like for actual overclocking, just no. I wouldn't use overdrive for GPUs and Wattman, nope. And overdrive for CPUs, nope. Ryzen Master, nope. Just no, I'm not gonna use them. I'd rather use something like Asus Turbo V Core, because those utilities are well, actually not even Turbo V Core. So Turbo V Core is a stripped down version of Turbo V, but like if you have to, Turbo V works. I think the worst in-OS OC utility, however, has to be Gigabyte's Easy Tune. That thing is just terrible. It's like really, really bad. Luckily, if you have a OC series, like an SoC motherboard from Gigabyte, or actually not even an SoC motherboard, a lot of the time, you can get Gigabyte's GTL, which is Gigabyte Tweak Launcher, working on lots of Gigabyte motherboards. So I'm gonna try get the temperature down into the minus 110 range here. Just because we are at 6 gigahertz and I'm not sure how stable this will be, so. There we go. And we're at minus 111, and let's run. It'd be cool if I managed to break the 9-minute barrier. That'd be a nice achievement. I'm gonna be I'm gonna test the 2. I'll try to test the 2.3 BIOS tomorrow. Ideally. Whoa, this is so much fast. Okay, this is gonna be a good one. There we go. Actually, I think if you wanted to mine Bitcoin back in 2012, it might have been better to buy to bring like a bunch of RX 480s because they're more power efficient. You'd spend less money on electricity. I'm actually like, okay, so, you know, B-die being B-die and this being some very nice B-die, I've had no trouble running 3200 megahertz on every single like motherboard I've tested so far for Ryzen, which is 2, unfortunately. And actually on the B350 Plus, the Asus, like the super low-end Asus board, I got 3200 12, 11, 12 timings working really well, so I don't know. I think I mean, if you have B-die, then you basically don't have to worry about anything with Ryzen memory. If you're on the other stuff, you need to wait for the eventual AMD will eventually give the motherboard vendors access to ideally all of the different memory timing settings. Because if you compare like current Ryzen BIOSes, most of them have like 5 memory, like you have like 6 timings that you can play with. If you compare it to like something like this, even this board has, you know, several pages worth of memory timings. And then there's even settings for like aggressive auto timings and performance auto timings and stability auto timings. Like Ryzen memory overclocking right now is really broken because AMD just they didn't give enough access to the subtimings, so basically only B-die works because that's the only thing it defaults the timings for properly. I kind of want to, like, once we get, like, if the whenever the Taichi gets the BIOS update that gives me access to more timings, I really want to test my Crucial Memory Kit, because that kit does like 3000 at CL11. Well, it actually does it does relatively low clocks but very tight timing, so I think it could be pretty good for performance on motherboards without VCLK overclocking. Though apparently there might be updates which even give us higher memory ratios, which would be cool. Yeah, Gigabyte on the K7, you have sub-timings now. They're the first with the update. There's a beta BIOS that does that. How do you know if memory is B-die? On HWBot, there is a big, long forum thread about what is and isn't B-die. That's probably the best way to tell. The other thing is, like, you can sort of guess what is and isn't B-die based on the specs of a memory kit. But for, like, 3200 megahertz memory kits, it's really unreliable. So it only really works well, like, at 3600 and like, yeah, basically 3600 megahertz and up memory kits. But that there is the forum thread with all the B-die binning information on HWBot, at least. I'm surprised this is not crashing, considering that this was the absolute maximum I could do Cinebench at. Well, it wasn't the absolute maximum. It was the maximum I could do on 100 megahertz BCLK. Kind of wanted to see if we can eke out a bit more core clock with a bit more BCLK, but it might be better to just try tweak this at this point. So here's the thing. B-die is still by far the fastest memory kit out, like, fastest available type of memory kit you can get. So I don't feel like you've wasted money with it. Because even once, like, all the extra OCing stuff gets out, B-die just does clock straight up better than Hynix AFR, BFR, or GFR, or not actually very well. I know there's AFR, and I think there's GFR or BFR, which is the 8 gig sticks. Micron, like, again, Micron ICs don't clock as good as B-die. B-die clocks the best. Just straight up, it does the best settings. Like, there's no, as far as I'm aware, AFR, like right now I'm running 3600, 12, 11, 11, 28. AFR can't do that. Basically, no Hynix IC can do that, as far as I'm aware, so, yeah. 2-rank B-die, no, 2-rank B-die does exist. It's 16 gig sticks. Because B-die is an 8 gigabit IC, so basically, if you want double-ranked B-die, you're going to be buying 16 gig sticks. That's it. The problem with double-ranked, dual-ranked B-die is that it's really, really heavy on the CPU's memory controller. So, like, you don't see any serious overclockers running it, because where single-ranked B-die can do sort of 4,000 to 4,200 megahertz at 12, 11, 11, 28 timings, well, that's like good B-die. Bad B-die will do like 38, 66, 12, 12, 12 or something. But, so B-die can do these speeds. Ooh, I actually made it under 9 minutes. That's cool. But, so dual ranked B-die won't hit those speeds because there's no CPU on Earth currently capable of pushing that kind of, those kinds of settings on that much memory. But it is actually, clock for clock, dual ranked is faster. So, yeah, it has its trade-offs. If you can't run a super high clock, then dual ranked theoretically should get you better performance in the end. But right now for Ryzen, if you buy dual ranked B-die even, you're still going to run into some problems just because it's right now single ranked B-die works the best. Dual ranked B-die is not a catastrophe, but it's not great as far as I'm aware. I don't have any dual ranked B-die. It's way too expensive and nobody wants to send. Like I can ask for pretty much anything and nobody wants to send me any. No motherboards, no RAM. Because if I had dual ranked B-die, I'd be willing to test it on like the Tai Chi as well as the Asus board, but I don't have any, so I can't test. Not even for like my personal, like honestly, I don't care about running memory kits for my own personal system, especially not 32 gigs. I don't need it. Yeah, so let's save this. I think I'll do one more. Ooh, I actually forgot to do priority again. I'm a genius, aren't I? Either way, it went under 9 minutes. I'm happy with that. Save. Okay. So, okay, I'll do one more run before the LN2 runs out with a different reduction size. And then I think I'll pack it in there because I really do want to have some LN2 left for Ryzen. Because Ryzen is like, I can run this, I can probably finish off the rest of the Gigabyte Summer Spectacular on dry ice. Because I'm not going to be competitive anyway. But I can't run Ryzen on dry ice. It's not doable. It just, no. I don't even like want to think about demonstrating it. Actually, Ryzen just in general is going to be like, that's going to be weird as hell to benchmark. Unless I get an LN2 delivery soon. In which case we can do a lot more LN2 benchmarking in general. Let's try this. Ooh, I should have noted down the first 4 times. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Yeah, I know, I forgot priority as well. That looks a lot slow. Yeah, that's a lot slower. That's a lot slower. Okay, so. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't like large reduction sizes. That's interesting. Let's try 32. And actually, no, I won't enable priority because I need to have it 1-to-1 for comparisons in terms of performance right now. The nice thing about this benchmark is you sort of know what kind of performance you're going to get by the end of it before it gets to the end. You don't have to wait. Like Unity in Heaven, you can sort of guesstimate where you're going to be, but it's harder because it's just FPS and it keeps fluctuating instead of being, you know, pretty predictable. So if your first time here is terrible, like that, I already know it's bad. So 32 doesn't work. 128 doesn't work. 64 is the way to go. Let's see if 4 mil can run faster. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's also slower, I think. Let's see, 5 mil. I just want to do a quick shot of 5 mil to see what 5 mil looks like, and there's also a chance that it just slows down every time you rerun it. There's a few benchmarks that do that. So that might be skewing my results. Oh, these are all spitting out 20s. What the hell? Oh, I really should have noted down the good run. You know what? Let's save LN2. Because I don't have a ton of it. I'm going to do a 6.1 gigahertz validation. Okay, just grab a validation at this point. Because I want to. And we'll call it a day for benchmarking. So I'll just finish off the rest of the LN2 on validating a high CPU Z. And that'll be it for today. So that we have something left for Ryzen in a week or two. Unless I can get a delivery, in which case we can stream sometimes in the middle of this week. No, next week? I freaking don't know. But, well, actually, I could just do testing. That'd be good. Then the streams suck less if I actually know what I'm doing. So, for validation, I want to really, really underclock the memory. So we're going to run it at 2400. Advanced voltage, DRAM. 1.4, 1.4, 0. 0.7. There. CPU core voltage, that's all good. Advanced frequency. No, I need memory settings, advanced memory. Ooh, this is cool. This is something I like about this board. You can have enhanced stability, which basically what this does is it makes the RAM as slow as humanly possible. Like, the timings absolutely suck. But it does get more stable, so... Auto. There we go. I think that's wiped, yeah. It's at 96 degrees. I'm actually going to have to grab more LN2. I hate this. I really do... I do want to finish off on, like, 6.1 gigahertz CPU Z, so... it's booting. I will grab one last shot of LN2 for this. There. Stop wasting it for the rest of the... Okay, Windows, 93 degrees. And we're back down to minus 100. Please boot Windows, stop being useless. I don't know why Windows 10 does this. It just randomly stops like booting. Okay, I'll just force restart it. So we'll do it this way. Did it seriously just wipe the BIOS? This board is idiotic. This board is dumb! It is so very dumb. Okay, I guess that'll be the end. Very dumb. I should have wired it for reset switch instead of BIOS switch. Oh, okay, so I'm going to dump the LN2 back into the DWAR, and we'll just end it there, because I don't want to waste more. I don't want to waste more LN2 on this. This is not going to go anywhere at this point. It's over. There. So yeah, that's that. I got under the 9-minute barrier, which was a kind of nice goal. Admittedly, it's nothing incredible. The CPU sucks, the motherboard sucks, I suck. But I think it was a good, like, second session on Gigabyte, just as a practice. Because this is the second, only the second time I've ever run Gigabyte. And it's really not that bad. Admittedly, I'm not benching it the way you're supposed to. Like, on a good motherboard, you wouldn't be running it at minus 120 and all that, but Yeah. I will tear apart the motherboard and show you, like, the back of the board, and we can sort of go around, look at how it went through the entire session. Look at some of the condensation buildup, that kind of thing. Throw those out. There. Also, I'll show you the extra capacitors. Well, you'll barely be able to see them, but they'll be visible somewhat. I think for dry ice, this motherboard actually would be fine. Because on dry ice, you don't have to deal with, like, the cold bug or anything, so... But, again, the memory overclocking on this thing sucks, so... Unfortunately. Well, more like I suck... I don't know. It definitely doesn't clock as good as the Apex, just in general. But I think a lot of that would also be partly user error. I still need to test the motherboard formally. I've kind of rushed everything. Unfortunately, the competition the stage 1 of the competition ends tomorrow, so I didn't really have a choice in, you know, taking my time and doing everything properly. There we go. Pull that. Pull the memory. There. These are ice cold. Actually, yeah, there's actually condensation on the memory slots. That's surprising that it was still running. It's not bad, though. It's just a little bit. Like, you can tell it's a bit damp, but it's nothing massive. Actually, I'll switch you to the bigger camera. Bam. And let's pull this last... Pull the screws. And we won't actually tear this down, because what I do with my systems after an LN2 session, I basically take the system and just stand it in the kitchen upside down over the... Well, the kitchen sink has that area where you put your dishes to dry, so that. I put the board upside down there. So basically all the water drips out of the LN2 pot and that. Generally, actually, once I tear apart the system completely, you'll notice that everywhere where the insulation is, it's actually pretty much dry. It's just like the top of the LN2 pot that tends to end up covered in water. Yeah, let's pull this off. Ta-da! And there's the back. So we actually have like a lot of ice built up right there and there. That's actually not the... This is a Cooler Master hold-down bracket for the 120mm AIOs I have. And the reason for that is because of these capacitors over there. Because if I use the bracket for the Der Bauer pots, that bracket goes to about like here. So you can't actually fit that. And these capacitors do actually help with overclocking on this motherboard, because this is a tiny little 3-phase pathetic little VRM. And basically when I was testing the capacitors, it went from... I actually have it written down somewhere. There we go. So that's my notes from testing. It passed, I was just testing with Cinebench 11, 7700K at 5 gigahertz. So I passed all the way down to sort of 1.28 volts. And then it wouldn't even post below that. Like, it wouldn't boot, well, it would post, it wouldn't get into Windows. Then I added the capacitors and I could actually run all the way down to 1.245 volts instead of 1.27-ish. So yeah, adding those capacitors actually does help a little bit with overclocking. Well, at 5 gigahertz, the voltage difference isn't going to be huge. But at higher frequencies, it'll actually get more and more higher frequencies, higher voltages as the power consumption goes up. So do the current fluctuations, and so the capacitors actually help more the higher the voltage you're pushing. So yeah, they did actually help the board. I'm not sure how much they did for the i3. I never tested the i3 on this motherboard until it was already fully prepared like this. Also, the board does have the little ta-da voltage sense line, which goes under the insulation from here and basically ends up under the socket there. So yeah. So I'll go put this in the kitchen, and how many of you are, how long is this? 2 hours 23. I think we'll finish off with a little Q&A. How about that? we go. Ugh. You know what? We'll do it this way. Ta-da! There. All set up. I should have probably just made a second scene for that, but whatever. Where did my water go? Ugh. Twitch? Man, my white balance is really off. I'm not that red. Oh, right, wait. I'll see it here before it goes to Twitch. This is going to be hard. How does this look on... Twitch has some... Wait. There's not that much difference between these two monitors. I think Twitch is doing it to some extent. Like, they have some kind of compression on the color. Oh, well. What do I think about the i9s? I've already answered that earlier in the stream. I think I'm excited because I love high core count CPUs. Just the scores they put out are insane. But I'm very worried that they're going to be extremely expensive again. So, yeah. My personal system is a 5930K, 16 gigs of RAM, and a Fury X. So, yeah. And I actually want to replace the 5930K with a Ryzen 1700 or maybe a 1700X. So, yeah. Because the 5930K for like streaming and stuff isn't that great. So, yeah. What's the mounting for my GPU monoblock, the EK one? It's basically just 4 screws and some thumb nuts that go over it with some springs. It's really not that complicated. It's also not that great. It's actually really awkward to get your hands in because the space between the water block and the thumb nuts is tiny. Do custom sleeved gaming cables help in 3D Mark? Yes. Yes. The more colorful your cables are, the better your graphics card can do the color calculations for pixels in 3D Mark, so you'll get better scores. If you're running LOD on NVIDIA cards, then you'll notice that 3D Mark just runs a giant big red screen. For that, you'll want to just get, you know, red cables and maybe orange ones. That'll get you the best performance. There, does that answer that? Are the black Keep Calm shirts available? I had to get a gray one. I am pretty sure that at this point... they should be available. Let me check. I'm pretty sure I've made black Keep Calm and Raise V Core shirts at this point. Indeed I have, for EU and the US. Actually, I've done 2 versions of these. These are a new revised version, which... There, so that's the US version, and here is the EU version. There. Will I be able to get my hands on an X399 CPU? I have no idea, honestly. I really want to, but as of right, the representative, I think the PR guy for AMD UK is not well known for giving out samples very much. At least from what I've heard from other people. That sort of do reviewing in the UK. I've personally never dealt with AMD UK myself, so I don't know. So what should I order? Somebody asked what they want on their pizza. Pepperoni. That's like the only kind of pizza I eat. How do I OC my PSU? Don't. You technically can't OC a... What the hell is with it with ambulances on my street? It's like, past... It's not... What time is it? It's 10:35 and there's an ambulance every couple minutes. Okay. Actually, I think, so the 16-core AMD chip, I think what we're going to see is AMD's 16-core is going to dominate Time Spy, and it's going to flop horrifically on things like 3D Mark Vantage, 3D Mark Firestrike, and 3D Mark Firestrike Extreme. It's going to flop on those because at this point, the 1080 Ti puts down so much FPS, puts out so many frames on all of those benchmarks that the Ryzen CPU, like the 16-core Ryzen, won't have enough IPC unless AMD have done some IPC improvements, or they've managed to get the 16 cores to somehow clock even better than the 8 cores, which I honestly don't think is going to happen. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Ambulances all the time. It's like, at least if they stop dying at the end of my street, you know? If they could die on a different street, that'd be an improvement. Multi-threaded applications. The thing is, Ryzen 16 core is probably going to hit 4 gigahertz, right? Kaby Lake and Skylake do have a small IPC advantage. Small. But I think a 12-core Skylake will probably be able to hit about 4.5. Maybe more. So... How would you even OC case LEDs? Well, I guess if you have them PWM. Why would you want to run a faster PWM on your LEDs anyway? Where do you go to purchase a DWAR? eBay. I got all of mine, like both of mine. Well, no, I got one from the HW Bot sale forum, and then the nicer of my two. So that nice one, that one's from eBay. That one's from the HW Bot forums. So, yeah. How temperature sensitive are 4790Ks? Not really. Like, do I have to delid? So the thing about delidding with your CPU is you straight up cannot run, like you do not want to run daily above a certain temperature, and also the CPU will thermal throttle if you exceed a certain temperature. So if you're delidding, you basically have to take into account those two scenarios. Like if your CPU is hitting 95 degrees in benchmarks, you gotta delid. It's really that simple. Or you have to buy a bigger cooler. If you can't buy a bigger cooler, you gotta delid. It's really that simple. But the, like, if you're at 80 degrees and you drop to 60 degrees on a 4790K, it won't, I don't think you'll actually pick up any, like you might pick up 10 megahertz or something. It won't make a big clock difference. It's, you delid when you don't have thermal headroom due to not enough cooling, basically. That's the main reason, you don't want to do that. Does anyone seriously overclock on water cooling, imagining a setup that returns it to ambient before touching silicon at every step? When people want to really push water cooling, they just get water chillers. There's like, yeah, you can pile on radiators until the water basically stays at ambient, but that's just not, like, it's not space efficient at all. It's not cost efficient, it's not space efficient, it's ridiculous, it doesn't work. Not practical even remotely. Why wouldn't you OC on water? Isn't that mostly the point of water cooling? I overclock on water cooling all the time. I mean, like, nobody's gonna go out and build like a super death overkill water loop. It's like, I have that there. That's a water loop. That's a 480 millimeter radiator, and I use that for X99. I really want to run Ryzen on that thing. I just haven't gotten around to, yeah, doing that. But for benchmarking, you're not going to be doing water cooled at all. What is with the color on Twitch? I swear, it's just like they seem to be compressing the colors, because it's way darker. The Twitch stream is way darker than what I have here. Let me tweak that one more time. More gain. Actually, I could just lift the brightness. No, that looks ugly. That looks really ugly on my end. There. Let's try that. I don't know. On my end, Twitch looks like 10 times darker than it looks on my monitor over here. So, yeah. Have I heard about how Stafford is going to cool their supercomputer? No. Let me guess. Actually, no. I'll just Google that. I don't like guessing. I don't like surprises, and I don't like guessing. Computer. Oh. That's, well, you know what? Just give me a link. So live OC competitions. There's going to be an HWBot World Tour event at Computex. I almost got to go there. Almost. I was so close to going to Computex. Except it's in the middle of my exams, so yeah. That's not happening, but I will still try my best to, like, we're going to do the whole, I'm on Skype and they're going to send me video and we're going to try do the whole commentary thing from Taiwan. And it should work a lot better because they've done the Taiwan event more often than any other one. The venue is better known and hopefully that'll work really well. Can I give you some tips for dry ice overclocking? I've not actually run dry ice properly. Like, I've never ever run dry ice. I run dry ice. When you're running dry ice properly, what you do is you have an interface fluid. And basically, you know what? I'll use the Summer Spectacular to test that out. If I'm not getting an LN2 delivery next week, then next Saturday I will be streaming again the i3, but on dry ice with the GT730 also on dry ice. So we'll do it like that. So the music that I have always playing on the live streams is Tyrant of Death. It is, I think it's called Cyber Metal. Yeah, it's a one-man band. And basically the reason why I only play this is because I've checked in with the guy who makes this that it's fine to run this on my streams. If you want to check out, actually you can get all of his music free. You can download it from his blog, I think. I'm not entirely sure at this point. Wait, what the hell? I'll drop a link on the chat to his YouTube channel if you want to check out some of the other things he works on, because this isn't the only music he makes. There. Could you do a Fury X PCB breakdown? I don't really wanna, but let's see. Here we have a Fury X. Okay, so the VRMs are, this is HBM, that there is the, so let's see. HBM VRM right here. That's VCore, the big one, obviously, controlled by the IR3567B right there. The auxiliary is up here. That's the auxiliary VRM, so that's for the memory controller. The display drive is somewhere here. I'm not sure. I have to check on that. Yeah, this is basically the same VRM as what you find on an RX 480 GTR. And even the GTR S, this is the same VRM on that. Capable of about 360 amps at 125 degrees centigrade, 300 kilohertz switching frequency, 1.5 volts, I think I set it for, or 1.4, no, 1.35, probably. So yeah, not really much to it. The interesting thing, like, I have blue tack on this because this was held on the wall with that. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about a Fury X. I mean, there. Ooh, the one thing I do like about these is all of the stock ones have a BIOS switch, that's normal. But you also get this right here, which controls the color of the LEDs right by the power connectors. Which a lot of people are like, this is useless bling. I actually really like it because when you're running a crossfire setup, you can really easily tell if one of the GPUs is running or not. It also, if there's a green LED on this, if that LED is glowing green, in a crossfire setup, you know you have ultra low power states enabled, which is also, you know, it's just a nice time saver. I personally love anything that gives you more information without having to open up some utility in Windows. So, yeah. And the VRM scales up with current as you lower the temperature. I think at like 100 degrees it does like it does like over 400 amps at 100 degrees, so yeah. Very nice VRM indeed.